Welcome, Professor Meyl, to White TV again. Last time we met at your home in Schwarzwald, Black Forest, southern Germany, April 2012. And made 3 interviews which were very popular in the internet. A synopsis about your work, and then you are the leading expert on scalar waves, detected the magnetic scalar wave, and detected that our body is working with magnetic scalar waves and that the biology needs your information urgently. And then in the last interview we had a focus on neutrino power, neutrino and cosmos, universe. And today you are in Sweden because you shall talk at the conference in Stockholm in the 22nd of August 2013. And the title is from this conference, Anti-Cancer Drugs 2013. And the title of your speech is about the communications of cancer cells.
Yes, dear Henning, I'm very glad to be here and to have the opportunity and the chance to tell you what my presentation at that conference will be. So this is just for preparing for me my presentation.
Full dress rehearsal.
Yeah, and I hope it will be agreed, because I'm not a cancer specialist. I'm an engineer, as you know, and electrical engineer. And what I want to tell them is that my devices for scalar waves is very usable for cancer, killing cancer cells and for this disease.
Even in other medical connections, I met one person in Germany who had an advantage of your technology in the medicine.
Yes, well, the technology is in the market for more than 12 years, and it is spread all over the world, more than, I would say, 1,000 times. So that a lot of experiments could be done and could be reproduced. And what I have collected in these 12 years is reports from all over the world, from experimenters, which is now in this documentation about the scalar wave technology, which is now in German, first in German.
I shall switch to the camera and focus on it.
Yeah. And that will be published in English in perhaps at the end of this year, a documentation about the scalar wave technology. And I have collected a lot of ideas which had been sent back to me, so that I can publish it for everybody, and we will support this issue to our experiments if they are ordered by some experimenters from universities, from medical hospitals, from private people and schools and so on, and so that we have inside practical applications in physics. To reproduce these interested experiments. The manual is inside, which we have had published for the 12 years, but as well as these interesting reports. It's a collection of reports. This is what is new. It is has been presented the first time in February this year. So. Yes. We are working on the translation, and this is what you will see later. I have some slides where you can see that the pages of these documentations are noted, and so that you can find it in this documentation if you're interested in it. The documentation at the time is half German and half English, and we are translating it to improve the English version. So let's start with my presentation. I want to give at Stockholm this week, and it will be published by Witte TV, I think next week, so that it is actually new for the conference and will be published later. But it is in my interest that it is in internet, that everybody who is interested in this technology has a chance to think about new experiments, to reproduce these experiments, which is in my opinion. Well, the approach I've presented the first time in China in 2011 is that the DNA is resonating with a long-term wave that propagates in the direction of the magnetic field pointer, or field vector. So this is what I call magnetic scalar wave. And I show you later that the magnetic scalar wave is a real possible approach, and that this gives us a chance to understand what is behind. But first of all, I start showing you the experiments we have done in the German Cancer Center.
Yes, I'm sorry. Could you please, in a short notice, explain what a scalar wave is? Because I suppose not everybody is knowing it.
Well, we have in Witte TV this explanation I just gave, that it is a long-tail wave, which is describing the property. But if we think about or if we need a description about the group of long-tail waves or standing waves, then I prefer to speak about a scalar wave. It's only a name, and in physics it is describing up to the or according to the wave equation that it is the propagation of non-vectoral field vortices, let me say field vortices, or scalar with scalar effects, propagating in the direction of the electric or the magnetic fields, and that means that it is a vector again. It is a vectoral directed propagation of undirected particles or field vortices. This is exactly...
For a layman, it is something else than an electromagnetic wave. This is usually the wave we know about. And you say there are three kinds of waves: electromagnetic waves, electric scalar waves, and magnetic scalar waves.
So it is. The electromagnetic wave, which is neither propagating in the direction of the electric nor in the direction of the magnetic field pointer, it is perpendicular to both propagating. That has been developed by Heinrich Hertz, and nearly at the same time, 2 years later, Nikola Tesla was propagating and showing the electric scalar wave, and the magnetic scalar wave is not explained in textbooks till today. So this is totally new what I'm talking about. But this has a very, very importance in biology and in medicine. So this is the background. Okay, here you see on the slide that we were using a lamp, a fluorescent lamp, and we were using some power. The cancer cells had been in cuvettes under the lamp, and they were killed immediately.
Which part is the killed ones, and which?
Both. So this was only to show that scalar waves have an effect and are usable. But this is not a strategy which could be successfully used for cancer patients. So that we have to reduce the power. Here you see that we have reduced it more than 100 times to about less than 50 milliwatt. I would say it was about 20 milliwatt or 30 milliwatt, no more. And we were using the transmitter with 2 receiver coils, and we have had the cuvettes on the receiver coils. We were using the same cancer cells in the cuvettes on both sides, and we were applying as follows. We were switching on the system, then we were killing the cancer cells on one side by poison. Different sorts of poisons could be used. In this case, we were using natrium acid, and then we were applying this over 9 minutes or 10 minutes about. So in that time, this information, I would say the dying information of the cells, has been transported to the cells on the other side over a distance of, well, here we have had only a few centimeters, but in practical use we were using about 4 meters, and we were sending this information to the other side, and the cancer cells on the other side had been killed after 12 hours, up to 24 hours. 1 day is enough to kill them. This is our experience. Well, this was done in 2012, and such an important experiment has to be reproduced as often as possible. And this is why I'm on this conference, cancer conference, because here the specialists are coming together and discussing new possibilities, how to heal such a complex illness as cancer is. And the first hospital that was reproducing it was one in Spain. It was the Spanish Cancer Center of Madrid. Here you see what we have reached. The blue line is showing that we started with 3 million HeLa cells, which are standard cancer cells, and after 24 hours there were only 1.3 million existing, so that they are dying because they have had not these optimal situation. But on the other hand, the green line is showing that those we were killing, they were dying very quick. After 10 minutes of operation, we have had only 1 million. From 3 to 1 million we have reduced the number, and after 24 hours they all had been dead. And this signal was transmitted to the other side, which is now the red line. And if you compare this red line with the blue line, which is the control, you see that we could reduce the cancer cells after 10 minutes to 1.38 million cells, and after 24 hours we have had only 0.25 million, so 250,000 million, 50,000 cells had been survived. So this shows that this system is usable, and I have some other results because we were changing the cuvettes, the glass cuvettes, and we were changing as well the power of the transmitter, of the scalar wave transmitter, and all these circumstances to find out which is the best result. And here in this curve you see that it is really tremendous, that the blue line shows that we could reduce, or the control cells were reducing down to 1.5 million cells, the green one was 0, and even those we could transmit had been 0 at the end. And if you look, yeah, you have a question?
Has this been done to humans also, or only?
No. In the first step, we have used this only from cell to cell. We were controlling whether it is possible to transmit information from a standard cell, from a healthy cell to a cancer cell. That was impossible. What we have learned is that the healthy cells are only communicating with healthy cells, and the cancer cells are communicating only with cancer cells. So they have changed, I would say, the antenna. And this is why we could only use these system in that way, that cancer cells were talking with cancer cells.
Must it be cells from the same living entity, or could it be a cancer cell from one human and then talking to another cancer cell from another human?
These experiments are very new, so that we have no experience with especially human beings. And we were only using HeLa cells and sometimes other cells as well, so two sorts they were using, and but they have got the same results. But the mixing of cells, we have no experience. So we don't know what happens. And in Germany, the experiments go on, and they are not ready. And in Spain, maybe they could be quicker, and that they start as early as they can with patients to take cancer cells as a sample from the cancer, to put it on the coil, to kill them while the patient is connected or is touching the insulated cable or so that he is part of the system, and then he will get this information, and the hope is that the cancer cells will kill from a distance, only by the information, because they listen to what the other cancer cells, the same cancer cells of the same family, of the same sort, are telling them. Okay, I still have a third example, and here you see again, which is absolutely tremendous result, that the control cells reduce, as we know, but the others, that means the poisoned and the test cells, which are the ones we want to show, are reducing as well to 0. So after 24 hours, they all had been dead. In this laboratory in Madrid, here you see the transmitter on the table and the two receivers with the bottles with the cancer cells on top on the Tesla coil. These laboratory, they have tried different sorts of killing methods, and the one that had been very successful or most successful has been a standard drug for the chemo treatments, and so this is a drug which is influencing or killing more the cancer cells than the living cells, and this they are slowly dying. This is important, that the information is not coming from one to the next step very quick. It is over the 10 minutes of treatment they have to die one after the other, and this will be transmitted. So let me explain to you what could be behind. And I have published these ideas in my book about DNA and cell resonance. Here we have the three types of waves. On the top you have the electromagnetic wave, Then the next one is the electric wave, which Tesla has developed, and the third one is the magnetic one, which is propagating in the direction of the magnetic field pointer. And what we see is that these circular structures are made by electromagnetic waves, because if you are turning an electromagnetic wave just around this circle with the speed of light, then it is, in the case of the red circles, it is turning about as a vortex all around the magnetic field pointer. And if this structure, this ball, is propagating in the in the direction of the electric field pointer, then we call it an electric scalar wave. And the third one is turning as a circle around the electric field pointer, and as if it is propagating, it's propagating in the direction of the magnetic field pointer. So this is what we may describe by the wave equation you have on the left side, which is originally from D'Alembert and was later on described by the student. Well, D'Alembert has been the teacher of Laplace, and he was giving this equation more exact, and the more practical applications of this stem from Hermann von Helmholtz. So this is what we call the wave equation, which is in all textbooks. And the next question is how an antenna has to look like. Here you see the next slide again, and as we see, the Hertzian wave may be received and detected by a dipole. This is well known. Nikola Tesla, with his electric scalar wave, was using condensers, so a condenser with two electrodes on both sides and the electric field pointer, which was propagating from one electrode to the other. This was the antenna Nikola Tesla was using. Now we have a third one, which is new and needs totally different antennas. The antenna for magnetic scalar wave has to be a coil, a standard coil where the electrons are moving in a circle. Then we know that a magnetic field is produced, or vice versa. If you have a magnetic field and if these electrons in a coil have the ability to move, then they will do it, and they will move in a circle. If we apply this to biological systems, then we very quick see that such antennas do exist. Here we have the antenna of the benzene ring, for instance. We know that in the organic chemistry, such ring systems are present very, very often, and they are typical for the organic chemistry, and these ring systems are acting as antennas. And that means the electrons in such a benzene ring are not fixed to the atoms, so that they are able to move freely. And if we have such a magnetic flux density, the consequence is that they move. These, we call them delocalized charge carriers. The same situation we have in the pyrimidine ring, which is part of all ASICs of the DNA. So that the idea could exist that such a ring, such an antenna, is used for communication of cells. Well, we even have to go to the next slide, showing how the structure of the DNA is. We have these backbone on the right and left side, and these pyrimidine rings connected to these backbone, held by the backbone. In between we have the hydrogen bonds. But interesting is that all adenine, cytosine, thymine, guanine, all these four ASICs or bases, all these four bases are using these ring systems. And if we apply the rules of electromagnetic science to this system, then we see that the electric field pointer is looking towards these base pairs, towards these rings, and the propagation all along the helix will be with the speed of light, and perpendicular to both we have the magnetic field
How
pointer.
do we see that? Can we make a measurement or?
Well, up to the of such a working antenna, we know that these have to work in this way. So this is, first of all, it's only a model, but this model may be calculated if we apply it to the DNA. Here you see the DNA, and we have to prove it later. Here you see the DNA helix, double helix structure, and if the electric field pointer, as shown, is directed to these band where the base pairs are, and if we accept that the base pairs are antennas, which are in reality always showing in one direction, which is the direction of propagation, that is the direction of the magnetic field pointer, then we know what happens. The electric field pointer is modulated by the turning electrons or charge carriers in the ring systems or ring antennas, so that the whole information is carried by a vortex. If this vortex is running through the double helix from the beginning to the end, so then it will capture the whole information in one vortex. Very complex modulated it is. And here you see that perpendicular to the electric vector we have the magnetic one, so that we apply the three finger rules, you know, with the electric, the magnetic, and the direction of the mechanical movement. Then you have, or the speed, then you know that this is an explanation for the double helix, for what is used in biology. This is absolutely the questions how we get the information out of the DNA. We know where the information is located, but nobody knows how to get it out of the cell, out of the core of a cell, which is absolutely condensed, to bring it to another cell. So what we are able to calculate is the speed this magnetic wave has, and you see that the speed with the which is v here shown is less than the speed of light, and it's about half of the speed of light. Exactly, it is 150,000 kilometers per second. I call it the speed of the DNA. Okay, if we still look at it, here you see here we have the ring systems, and they are carrying the information. Okay, next is that we know that this double helix is wound up around so-called histones, and they are one time turned to the left and then turned to the right, and we are able to explain this because one time we have the negative half of the magnetic wave, and the other time the positive half, so that this gives us an idea about the wavelength. And
what is meant by negative and positive part? Is it a charge question, negative and positive?
If you have a wave, the wave is an oscillation between a negative and a positive value, and it is oscillating between these two situations, and this is why we have to wind up one time to the left and one time to the right. And this is realized in biology inside a cell, in the core of a cell, when we are concentrating the double helix. So if we calculate this, we find that the distance from knot to knot, which is half of the wavelength, gives us a wavelength of about 126 nanometers plus minus 6 nanometers. So this is the wavelength of the DNA of a human being. Plants have other DNA and animals sometimes as well, so that we know that there are different types, but this is absolutely necessary because the different types have to have different information, that it is not mixed up in nature. Well, 126 nanometers, this gives us an idea what the wavelength is. We have to prove this, and all measurement devices which are available today are used for biological systems, so that there are a lot of results available and ideas. One stems from Professor Pop. He was using photomultiplier, and with this photomultiplier he was detecting a very, very smooth signals which are radiated from cells, and he has found out that this is UV radiation. Well, if we use the results I have derived from the property of the DNA, we have derived 150,000 kilometers per second, and this, which is the speed of the DNA. If we divide it by the wavelength, which is 126 nanometers, then we get exactly UV radiation. So that we see that what Professor Pop has used.
Karlsruhe in Germany.
In Karlsruhe, no, well, he had been in Germany anyway, in Marburg. He had been at the university, but he was fired from university and has to have an institute by himself, run by himself, because he was not able to explain what happens, and he was talking about photons, biophotons, so that should give the imagination that there should be light. But you see, the DNA is not using the speed of light, it is about half of the speed of light, so it is no light. And this problem was his problem, you see. Now we find out that he really has been right in his examinations, but not in the explanations. Okay, but let's have a look further what other results had been. The next is that these radiation is measured by spectroscopy. As we know that spectroscopy is using always the speed of light, then we have to use the or calculate the wavelength, which is about 2 times more than the DNA wavelength is, and this is about, between 260 and 280 nanometers. Well, this experimental setup is not the correct one, as we know, because it is working with the speed of light, but it gives a result, and we use this result to find out how how clean or how clean the DNA is. So if it is very clean, or if it is very condensed, as I would say, then we have 260 nanometers, and if not, then up to 280, which is exactly the range I have developed. So that this proves again that these calculations and this model I have given is correct. If we, you see, wavelength multiplied with the frequency always gives the speed of the speed. The speed could be the speed of light if it is light. If not, then it's less or more. So if we change the speed, if we go into something else, you see, in another environment, then if only one of these three factors is identical, then we get a result. We don't measure exactly the DNA, but we get a result that means that we get something on our scope. And let's have a look what happens if we look at these DNA wave at the speed of sound in body tissues, which is about 1,470 meters per second. We find out that we have 2 times the frequency of water, which is the water resonance. That means water has a very, very great importance for human beings, and we know that we are all coming out of the water, and life is coming from the water.
Of water
yeah, and we exist from water, so that water is essential for the signals we are using. Okay, this explains a lot that we have water resonance, and the next is if we look at these DNA wave at the speed of sound, well, in the air outside our body. If we measure outside, what is the result? If we look at 343 meters per second, then we see that we are exactly at that frequency where the microwave oven is working at 2.5 gigahertz, about 4 or 5 gigahertz. Well, the microwave oven has the task to heat up the cells, because we don't want to heat up only water, we want to heat up meat or whatever, or we could say structures of water. And these structures of water are bigger, so the wavelength is less than the resonance of water itself, and it is about 2.5 gigahertz. This is a biological window, what I call. And now let's put all these results into this frequency diagram. You have this diagram shown the frequency over the speed. The blue line in the middle is the speed of light, which is what we are have accepted in our textbooks. That is why everything what we are measuring, we always look at the speed of light, but this is not true, because in biology, as we see, it could be less. Well, and if we start on top, where there is explained the frequency of the DNA, which is a bit on the left to the blue line, so that it is only half of the speed. Well, the speed is, here it is in logarithmic ratio shown, and these lines going across are the wavelength, are showing the wavelength. If we go this wavelength line of which is the wavelength of the DNA at 126 nanometers, if we go down, then we are coming to infrared radiations, what I call the frequency of his tones. And if we go down again, then the blue point is the water resonance, and the green one is the biological window, which is exactly the frequency which is used today by mobile phoning. But the mobile phones are not working at the speed of the air sound. They are again at the blue line, so that they are working with the speed of light. If you go down, then from that point again to the point of the air speed, of the sound speed in the air, then you see that we get down to frequencies which are in the region of the sound waves, so that we should have a chance to hear these signals, and this is what we call tinnitus. Okay, I don't want to talk about tinnitus at this point. It's only to show that if you use this frequency diagram, then you will understand more about biology and where the signals are used, and then you will be ahead if you design technical devices, because a technical device which is working in a biological window could not be accepted in our society. Okay, well, this is from a schematic diagram which is showing the packing of chromatin in our lectures and textbooks. So we know that this condensed sort is existing. It is absolutely high condensed, but what we see if we look at these forms is that they have structures. From point to point we get again structures. Let's have a look from the on top, which is the double helix, down to bottom where we have the structure of a chromosome, and this chromosome is showing a knot, which is the knot of a wave, of a longitudinal wave. Longitudinal waves are always producing knots. We know this from the sound wave, that we get these knots which are could be made visible and after the half of a wavelength. So to the left could be half of the wavelength, to the right could be the quarter of a wavelength, and this structure is producing a new scalar wave at a much lower frequency, which is in the range of infrared or heat. This is why our cells have a temperature. We have our human being. We have a temperature. This is
why fever can heal.
It's a special thing that fever is could heal, but if it's more than 42 degrees, we know that then the structures of the cells are destroyed, and then we die anyway. Okay, let's compare this system with the technical system. What the need is to transport energy transport, and so we need a carrier wave or basic wave which is carrying the energy, and this carrier wave could be modulated and could transport the information. In the technical solution, in all our technical solutions, which is used by mobile phones, which is used by radios, by TV and so on, we are modulating a signal which has a low frequency, sound wave, music for instance. We are modulating on a high frequency carrier wave, which could be modulated by amplitude modulation, AM or FM or whatever. And if the high frequency is not high enough, because we want to have smaller antennas, if we want to get these information from a satellite, then we are even modulating this high frequency carrier wave to another carrier wave at even higher frequencies. So this is technical use. But the problem is that what we have learned is that the higher the frequency is, the more space we have for several TV stations, for more information, so that in our technical systems need these high frequencies to have a lot of TV stations at the same time, which are using satellite. The system in biology is doing just the opposite. The highest frequency, as shown here in this slide, of biological modulation, the highest frequency is the information wave itself. So that this wave is working at a frequency higher than the frequency of light. So this is UV light, it is, as we have explained, and so this is the highest frequency, and this information wave is modulated on a carrier wave at low frequency, which is maybe thermal or heat wave, and this wave is even modulated on lower frequencies, and at the end we end up at the brain wave at 10 Hertz perhaps, so that the technical solution of biology is much more intelligent, because we have the ability to modulate the whole information of a biological system, of our body, of our biological system. We have the ability to modulate everything, how my nose looks like, how my eyes look like, my hair, and so on. Everything we have modulated on one vortex, and this is more intelligent because of the high frequency, which has the maximum of modulated signals. This is just to compare this. If we look again, where we end up is that we have until 3 Hertz gamma waves, we have theta waves, alpha waves, the Schumann resonance, then according to Tesla, the earth resonance and the brain wave, the beta waves, the sound waves, ultrasound, and so on. So that we know that these carrier waves are used in biology, and if we look at some devices for bioresonance, then we see very quick that they all are using as a carrier wave these very, very low frequencies, such as BCOM from Germany or Oberon from Russia, and so on. All these systems are no one is using the biology or the DNA wave itself. They are all using only the carrier waves. So they go on the carrier wave, they use the carrier wave to transport information. Well, Oberon, for instance, like a radar system, is transmitting these information in the body, sending in the body, watching for the information which is reflected and is running back, and then detected and compared by a cross-correlation function with the original signal, and then they find out whether the the answer of the body and of the organ is correct or not. This is how these systems are working, and this is because of these special properties of these carrier waves, which are in use. Okay, this was a short overview what I have shown in China on the second DNA Day in 2011, which is the background for what we want to do, and the period we have tried these possibilities is now more than 12 years, and here you see how our system looks like. We are able to use for these practical cancer application. We have developed it originally for transmission of music, but music which is not hearable, and so we have in the center on the button we have these transmitter system, and connected to the transmitter system we have the two receivers, and in this case we are modulating one receiver with music and the other one is hearing this music, but if you are in the room you hear nothing, and this but this even has an effect, and you can use it for music therapy, for instance, and we have some customers who are using it for wellness application. Here you see it as a system in the residence Strand Hotel in Warnemünde. There we have this system, and the hotel guests, they like it so much that they come back as often as possible. So these are some. Sorry, it's in German. These are some results we are able to use this system for. But let's have a look what the medical doctors have found out. Dr. Rothach in Munich was one of the first who has applied this, who has transmitted information from such a Tesla coil, you see on the right side, the receiver, to another coil. He was using information, well, it was poison, it was ochatoxin, and he was transmitting to water, and he could show that this is working only with a scalar wave, not with the electromagnetic wave at 5 megahertz. So he was proving first that the scalar wave has different properties, and that these special applications are only usable if you use the scalar wave. So this shows what he has done, but he proved his results by a system which is called acupuncture, and which is not accepted in science, and this is why we had to find other possibilities where we are able to see something, to measure something in a technical way. And Dr. Fels from the University in Basel in Switzerland, he was using Pantoffeltierchens, as we call them, which are paramecia in cuvettes he has had, and he was putting one cuvette into another one, and could prove that there is communication between these animals through the glass. So that his results had been published in PLOS ONE in 2009, and this is why we met in China, and he said that his communication system has to be explained by biophotons. And I said, I'm sure that this is not true, because he was using scalar waves, but we have to prove it. So he was visiting me in Villingen, and we reproduced his experiment, and it shows really that it was no light, it was scalar waves. So we could reproduce his experiment, which is very, very well known because it is absolutely tremendous. The next step was that I started with a medical doctor, Dr. Johannes Ebbers, an experiment when we were transmitting a drug, canesten, very, very simple, very well-known drug, which is breaking down the growth of beer yeast. And we know that this happens, but we wanted to transmit it by scalar waves. And so we were using this device, as you see here, the experimental kit. He is preparing some samples of these yeast in water on the this dish, these
Petri dish. Petri dish.
Petri dish, thank you. And well, what we have found out, that we were making photos from these drops of yeast, and we could show that they were growing in a special period that was 24 hours, about 54%. As this is only one sample, that because we are working with a lot of samples and were calculating the average. The next was that we were using drug information, and so we could stop the growth or slow it down to 18% in average, which is not so much. So we repeated this experiment. Here you see our setup in the heat chamber. We have had the Petri dish, and on the right side the drug in liquid solution. So we reproduced the same, but we were not using the setup from transmitter to receiver, but this time from one receiver to another receiver, and the result was doubled. So that we have had a slow down of about 29% in average, which is much better. So about 30%, we can say the effect was transmitted over a longer distance of 4 meters. So we can say the transmission of drug information from one to another scalar wave receiver or Tesla coil, however, the evidence of a reduction growth of beer yeast is observable, about 29%. If the information of the drug canesten against fungal diseases is transmitted from one receiving coil of a carrier wave to another coil placed inside the incubator where the sample is placed. So this is showing that it is really observable. This was the first experiment that we did ourselves to show that this is the right way to go, and which explains that scalar waves are used, and that they have a biological effectiveness, and they are able to carry information from one cell to the other, or from outside to the cells. This is absolutely important. So we even wanted to have one more result, one more experiment, and I got help this time from this lady, Professor Schnabel, and she is a biologist, and she wants to transmit information well, and wants to control this, the growth hormone gibberellin acid applied to the culture of peas over a distance of about 4 meters. This is what we wanted to control. And here we have the structural formula of gibberellin acid, which is showing as well these ring systems using as antennas. And if we put the peas at the beginning on the coil, then we find out that if we compare it, the normal growth of these peas is without drag and without wave is about 6.9 millimeter. These are the roots growing out of the peas, and we measure how long they are after or over the time difference of 48 hours. The control in average was with scalar waves but without drag, so they were, if you compare it, growing about 54%, whereas the test object, which get these growth hormone gibberellin acid, they are growing in average of about more than 100%. So if you compare it with the with these control, so that we can say as a consequence of these experiments, the rings of delocalized electrons are acting as an antenna. The organic ring antennas receive, store and send information and energy. The ring of the rotating electrons generates a magnetic field, as always rotating electrons are doing. 4. The magnetic field carries energy and modulated information. Both is combined in the electromagnetic, in the scalar wave, not in the electromagnetic wave. 5th, biology communicates wirelessly via magnetic fields. Perpendicular to the magnetic is the electric field pointer, and the electric field pointer oscillates with the information. Modulation is captured by the high frequency carrier wave, transmitting the oscillation possibly over long distances. This is what we have reached. So this is what I will present and what I will talk about. And well, there are a lot of special things behind, so that we have to discuss this, and especially the use of such a scalar wave device is not very simple. We had to learn it by ourselves, how to handle it. And so if those who are interested in reproducing such interesting experiments, if they want to do it, I'm very glad, and I help them. I hope that they call me and that they tell me what they want to do, and if they have the knowledge in engineering, then they can do it without my help. If not, I could help as much as I can, because this is absolutely tremendous. I think it is a new sort of energy energy medicine, what is available in the future if we use these devices. Well, I can, from the experience we have till now, all these experiments are still working. They are still not ended up, and we need to find out how mice are reacting. And well, at the end, we want to use this system for such cancers like cancer, and I hope that this system will be so successful as well as it was with these cells. What we have found out is that we have some difficulties by using this system. One difficulty is that the antennas have to move. They have to move in that direction that the ring system is perpendicular to the magnetic field point. On the Tesla coils, I have a maximum of the magnetic field on the coil. It is just the place where we have put the primary coil of this air transformer on the opposite side, on the other side of the PCB.
Could you perhaps explain exactly what is a Tesla coil?
The Tesla coil was used and developed by Nikola Tesla first, and is producing more scalar waves than a standard coil. It's a flat or pancake coil, and it is very difficult to understand how it's working, because it was only developed by trial and error.
Copper wire?
It's a copper wire.
Flat.
Yeah, flat coil it is, yeah. So that we have, if the electrons are moving, we have magnetic fields involved, and we are able to measure where the maximum of these magnetic fields occur.
And where is the start? Where is it going in and out? Is it in the same?
Oscillating.
Or is it opposite?
Well, the currents are oscillating at high frequency at about 7 megahertz, so that there's an oscillation between the earthing point, what Tesla calls the earthing point, outside at the end of the coil, and inside he is connecting an antenna, a wire with a ball antenna. So this is the setup of Tesla, and well, I developed this setup because I wanted to reproduce the experiments of Tesla. I wanted to find out whether Tesla was right or wrong, but we could answer very clearly that he was right and that this is all correct, but later on we had to learn that this setup could be used for other applications, for instance medical or biological applications as well. This was new to us, absolutely, because nobody was thinking about these applications before, and so this is not so important what the technical description is. It is more important that this works. Mm-hmm. And well, what I wanted to explain is that these antennas have to move. You see, they're looking in all directions, and if the magnetic field point is getting out, and if I put these glass with the biological information on that point where the maximum of the magnetic field pointer is, then they have to turn so that the level of the turning electrons is perpendicular to the magnetic field pointer, so that it is going through and is accelerating these electrons or charge carriers. And these ability to move, to turn, is better in waters than it is fixed, so that we could find out by these experiments with the canistine, because canistine is usable as a fixed system, from a tube, or as liquid, or oil, liquid. All these possibilities exist, even homeopathic possibilities, so that we have different systems, and we have seen the more movable they are, the better the communication between the used carrier wave, scalar wave, and these biological substances is. First, this is one problem. We are able to solve this problem. The next problem is to bring this information on the other side to the cells which need the information. And here we normally have the cells in a fixed situation, so they are not movable. And this is why we could attack or reach only a few of the cells, and this is why we need 24 hours or even more till these cells who have got the information are transporting it to the neighbors. So it's going from neighbor to neighbor.
Is that the kind of 100's monkey principle, that if a certain amount of cells have the information, then it's going over to the rest?
Looks like. So that every system has several problems which have to be optimized if I want to optimize the whole system. And this is why we have found out liquid solutions is good, special point on the coil is good, to have two receivers, not only one receiver, one transmitter. This is why we are now offering the experimental kit, which is available on my homepage, as well as in a biological version for these biological experiments with two receivers. And so we need 3 balls inside. So it's a bit changed. The content is changed just for those who are interested in these experiments. And I hope that as many scientists, as many laboratories which are able to handle such cells, to count them and so on, which is absolutely necessary, are reproducing these experiments.
It sounds this is the medicine of the future.
If it is usable for cancer, then it will be usable for other diseases as well.
And it's cheap.
Yes, it's very cheap, much cheaper than cancer treatment today.
So Big Pharma will fire on you because they can't earn more money.
I hope they have interest, and they can't stop it because more than 1,000 of these machines are in the world. So they have only the chance to go together with me. And this is my hope.
I hope so too. Thank you very much, Professor Meyl.